Let's see the president of the United States, former president of the United States, having to defend himself against the insanity going on in New York City today, day one of this trial where they're trying to take him down.
Walking into the courtroom.
Is that common,
here.
Andy?
Yeah.
Huh. And here's President Trump as he walks in. Let's just see if we get a comment.
Are you ready to lose voters if there's a conviction?
This is an assault on America. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar says this case is nonsense. It should never have been brought. It doesn't deserve anything like this. There is no case, and they've said it. People that don't necessarily follow or like Donald Trump said this is an outrage that this case was brought. This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America. And that's why I'm very proud to be here. This is an assault on our country. And it's a country that's failing. It's a country that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved in this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. That's all it is. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
President Trump making the point that this is all politics as usual, but not entirely politics as usual, because you know what? He's not usual. Most usual, normal people would say, you know what? I've had it. I'm done. Thank you very much. I'm not going to have them ruin me, my family, and future generations. And yet he's still willing to go back for more. They don't know what to do with the guy. Because every time they try and take him down, there he is saying, no, I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to fight back hard. So this is unusual. I mean, keep in mind, this is the so-called hush money case, right, where he allegedly paid off Stormy Daniels via Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, who like flipped on him, was like Mr. Rah-Rah Trump, and then all of a sudden was confronted with the reality of jail time and suddenly was singing a different tune. And they're saying, the feds are trying to say, or Alvin Bragg is trying to say in this particular case, New York is trying to say, well, we've got him on these charges because you see, this is sort of faulty accounting. He paid off Stormy Daniels, AKA Stephanie Clifford, with $130,000 by way of Michael Cohen. Now, this was already looked at before on the civil side, remember, and what was decided was actually Stormy Daniels owed him money. Well, now we're going back with a vendetta, a politically charged vendetta, and Alvin Bragg is trying to prove that there was faulty accounting going on. So let's just let's go out on a limb and assume that's the case. Now he said, okay, I never had anything to do with that woman. She's also issued multiple statements saying there was no affair, but we're not even going to debate that. We're just going to say, okay, you know, he didn't really feel like having this noose around his neck, and there was a picture of them together, and maybe she was saying something, and he felt like, okay, I'm a public person now. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want my kids to deal with this. I don't want my wife to deal with this. Maybe I give her 130 grand and maybe she goes away and signs an NDA, etc. So let's assume that went down. Well, that's actually legal to do. You can actually give people money and have them sign NDAs. So that happens all the time. And then the question becomes, well, if he had Michael Cohen do it, his lawyer do it, is that a problem? Well, don't lawyers handle this all the time? Now, again, I'm a little out over my skis because I'm the economic expert, not a legal expert. But again, this kind of stuff doesn't seem like it would merit a full-blown trial for the former president of the United States. But let's go to a legal expert, shall we? And that would be Jonathan Turley over on Fox this morning with my very good friend, Maria Bartiromo. She's great, by the way, if you're not watching her show. I don't usually give Fox a plug, but I'll give Maria a plug. Let's watch Jonathan with her.
Telling us, I'm going to put up this letter. This is from Stormy Daniels that President Trump posted. I know you've seen this. It says, Stormy Daniels writes, the fact of the matter is that each party to this alleged affair denied its existence in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now again in 2018. I'm not denying this affair because I was paid hush money. I'm denying the affair because it never happened, writes Stormy Daniels. Sir.
Yeah, everything about this case is, in my view, legally absurd. You know, this case is basically a state misdemeanor that had run out on the statute of limitations. And Bragg was forced, after he declined for a long time to bring this charge, to do so. His predecessor rejected it. And so they took a dead misdemeanor and bootstrapped it into effectively trying a federal crime. But the federal crime here under election law was rejected by the Department of Justice. They didn't feel that this should be charged. So you have this crazy case that's going to go forward, and it's going to turn on the testimony of people like Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen just recently had a judge call him a serial perjurer. Wow. And he's going to appear as the center of this case.
Unbelievable.
Oh, not exactly who you would really want for your central witness. But here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a kangaroo court, does it even matter? Does it matter? It doesn't. Not if you wind up with a jury pool. Well, you have a jury pool that overwhelmingly hates Donald Trump, that overwhelmingly, more than 80% of New Yorkers voted for Joe Biden. So how the heck do you get a fair jury? I'll tell you this, you don't. You can't even get, for goodness sakes, a fair judge. You can't get a fair judge. The judge himself has a daughter who's raising money off of none other than the very case her dad's there presiding over. He refused to allow this to move to another jurisdiction where you might have a shot of a more balanced jury. He refused to recuse himself from the case. So you get a biased judge. You get undoubtedly a biased jury. This jury selection, by the way, is going on as we speak. In this moment in time, they are selecting jurors. And you know they're going to be asking questions like, hey, what podcast do you listen to? If you answer Trish Regan, I have a feeling you're in trouble. But they're trying to find people that maybe don't listen to podcasts, that aren't informed. You really want those people deciding your fate as well, people that are uninformed? They're looking for people that don't have any kind of view in this. And I don't know if you're going to find that in New York City, because I'm pretty darn sure everybody in New York, it's one of the reasons why it's a troubling place if you're a Trump supporter to be. Everybody has an opinion. And generally, those opinions are very anti-Trump, hence the cancel culture in which we now live in. And so they're going after him every which way to Sunday. As Jonathan Turley so well articulated, they've tried looking at this before. It didn't make any sense. They couldn't get the federal charge of the campaign election fraud in there, but somehow now they're coming back at that. I don't entirely, I think he could probably argue, hey, I wasn't president at the time, and I actually wanted to protect my family, so maybe this is an NDA. Listen, this is going to be really, really challenging to prove. That is, unless you just get a biased jury that wants to take him down for whatever reason. And Alvin Bragg clearly is under orders from someone higher up. You do this. His predecessor wouldn't. It's all happening as those on the left continue to say, well, Donald Trump is the bad guy. He's the authoritarian that's going to make everyone's life a living HELL should he be elected again. Last I checked, he didn't do this to Hillary Clinton. And by the way, he could have. He didn't. I actually spoke to him about it. And you want to know what he told me? He said, look, this is America, Trish. But I have a feeling he gets back in there again. And yeah, it will be game over because they've run amok. They have treated our legal system like a total joke. And we've become effectively the banana republic that we should never, ever be at risk of becoming. But here's the MSNBC guy, their historian, saying, oh, no, he's authoritarian. He's the problem. Watch.
And joining us now, NBC News chief political analyst Chuck Todd, also Douglas Brinkley, a presidential historian and professor of history at Rice University. So, Douglas, how do you see this extraordinary day? I mean, it is a day where we're seeing history in the making. How do you read it?
Well, I preferred the solar eclipse last week. Now we're in a really tawdry case. The fact that we're bringing up all the hush money payments and porn star, or what do we call it, all over again. I think it matters, though. It's really pointing to, once again, that Donald Trump's character doesn't exist. that there's a bit of shamelessness. He's misogynistic. He attacks people's families. He knows no bounds, and he tries to behave in an authoritarian manner. What will it mean? First question, can we get an uncontaminated jury pool in an age of social media where people dig? You're hiring people now to see if you ever had a friend of a friend who said something to try to stall and delay if you're Trump. He also knows, the former president knows the cameras are on him. That tie we just mentioned could go on sale for $1 million donation for Trump tie from court day. So there is a circus atmosphere to it. But the seriousness is this guy is the presumptive head of the party of Abraham Lincoln, who for the first time ever we're having to witness this sort of long drawn out series of court cases. So it leaves you wondering why Trump doesn't lose voters this coming week, but I doubt he will because people are pretty baked in on how they think about the former president.
And let's talk about
lose voters. Like, if anything, I actually think what this is doing, Mr. Brinkley, presidential historian that you are, what it's actually doing here is it's bringing more people from the middle over to the right, because they're looking at this and they're saying, whoa, like our system has run amok. This has gotten so crazy and so political. And this poor guy just keeps coming back saying, all right, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm willing. And I'm the only one that's willing to stand up to the insanity that is America right now, that is this so-called, whatever you want to call it. Let's go with swamp, for lack of a better term. I mean, who the heck would want to be in politics today? They'll destroy you. They'll ruin you. They'll ruin your family. They'll take you to court. They'll bankrupt you. Why would you ever do this? And they're looking at him and saying, well, he's clearly crazy because he's willing to stay in it. I mean, maybe he is, because I don't know a lot of people that would be willing to put up with what he's had to put up with, which is why you see over and over again when you see at these rallies all across America, and MSNBC doesn't understand this. Well, why do people like him so much? Why do they feel like he's the only one fighting for them? Because he is. Because he actually is willing to take this on. The system be damned. And so they, meaning the left, the politicians that want to control everything, are going to try and take them down. And you know what? Here I am. I'm going to tell you, I'm not sugarcoating anything. They could. They very well could. You're looking at a New York jury, ladies and gentlemen. You get a New York judge whose daughter profits off of all this, and clearly, I guarantee you, has his own bias. So if you get so many cards stacked against you, what happens then? He'd have to hope that the appellate court would reverse it. What if they don't? You're looking at a GOP nominee that's been convicted of a possible crime, that's going to be running from jail. I mean, they're trying to get this conviction, let's be very clear, before November. And let's also be very clear, he's not going anywhere. So he's going to continue running regardless of what happens, including if he's running from a jail cell. He's told us that. And I'm just going to tell you this, like every which way you look at this, Americans keep saying, I mean, what's our alternative? What is our alternative? It's Joe Biden. Do you see the polls out now? Only 25% of the country actually thinks he's doing better than Donald Trump. No. No one thinks Joe Biden is doing a good job. No one. And so while he got a little bit of a bump after his State of the Union, the reality is this: America does not think he's doing a good job.